Gary and Derek for helping get this set up and organized. Can everyone hear? Good. Okay, so we're going to do 30 minutes on my life as a fish. We are going to talk about the weird, bizarre, amazing, astounding, impossible to believe stuff that goes on underwater. So, with that in mind, get ready. What I'd like to do is talk for about 30 minutes, and then I'm hoping that everybody will start sharing their own fish stories. How many of you are snorkelers? Not that many. And scuba divers? Yay, a scuba diver in the group. One, I think. So yeah, a lot of this will be new to you. So I have loved scuba diving more than life itself. I swear I am just the person who goes crazy underwater. This is my dive buddy, also known as my husband. We have gone on more adventures than you can count. I got into scuba diving when my father took us on vacation to Mexico way back when. And the family went and saw Chichen Itza and Tulum and the silver markets and the jungles. Me, once I hit that water, you could not pull me out. I was so fascinated. I was so fanatical already. How fanatical was I? I had a 600-gallon aquarium in my office. You know how big that is? You know how many maintenance people it takes to keep the pH just right and the salinity just right, and these fish aren't happy with those and this and that. Now there's one specific thing to notice in this photo, and that is right over here. You see that? That's called a spiny lobster. It's like a Maine lobster, but it doesn't have claws. So we put it in the tank. We caught it when Louis and his gorgeous son John and Louis and I were all scuba diving, right? We put it in the tank, and all of a sudden, every night, one of these really expensive saltwater fish would go missing. So we finally figured out who it was. It was Dr. Bubbles. That was his name. A long story behind that, but we won't go into it. So that's what he looks like. See, no claws. So you wouldn't think he'd be a very efficient predator, would you? Oh, we put a dozen of these blue chromas in with him, and we were horrified to watch as one by one, he just engulfed them with those spidery arms of his and just chalked them right down, except for Mr. Tough Guy. For some reason, Mr. Tough Guy never slept in the 4 years he shared the tank with Dr. Bubbles. He was the most vigilant guy I've ever seen. And so I used to feed them sushi every day. They were in this tiny little tank in the back in the kitchen, rather than that glorious big tank. And so I used to feed them sushi by hand, and that's the kind of fanatic you're dealing with here. You're talking about somebody who lives it, right? What I love about scuba diving, I think more than anything as I think about it, is it's different every dive. Sometimes you go underwater and you get one of those beautiful, sunny, peaceful experiences. But the next dive, you might be doing a wreck dive when your husband lost to the bowels of the ship. Next time you could be almost dying at 100 feet because you were in search of this elusive, do you see the seahorse? Right there, everybody see him? Yeah, my hair cut out at 100 feet. You cannot surface in one breath from 100 feet. So yeah, I made it always well. And it's good to know that I do not panic under pressure. Sometimes you go down and you see a giant moray, and next thing you know, you're feeding it and petting it and having the most fun, and your husband's saying, "You're gonna lose a finger and I'm not gonna take you to the ER, it's stupid." And I'm saying, I'll do whatever I want, and I've been safe doing this for 40 years. Right, so new levels of communication. Sometimes you go down on night drives and you see this gorgeous octopus out hunting. Sometimes you just are learning. You take so many courses. Let's do a quick run on octopuses. How many of you have seen my octopus teacher? Oh good, most everybody. Isn't that quite the name? And how about, what is it called, the creatures? Remarkable creatures, remarkably bright creatures.
Yes.
How many people have seen that? Well, more than half, I'd say, about half. Yeah, so we think we know a lot about octopuses, but I bet there's some things you don't know. Octopuses are tool users. Now, it was only a couple decades ago that humans thought that only humans use tools. Now we find out that chimps use tools, even birds use tools, but octopus use them as well. They use them as protective fins. You know, octopus don't have exoskeletons, right? So they're very vulnerable. But they'll use a shell, or they'll use half a coconut, the outside of a coconut, and they'll just carry it around as their housing unit. That's amazing. What?
Microphone closer to your mouth.
Yeah, okay, closer. You may also know that octopuses can mimic almost any creature. Look on the left there, that's an octopus trying to look like a lionfish and doing a pretty darn good job of it. Octopus on the right, if you see this little, it's using its tentacle as a lure, trying to get a fish, waving it around, you know, trying to get a fish to come up close to check it out, and then bam, that's the end of the life of the fish, right? Octopuses, when it comes to sex, it's a dangerous business. Now, this guy is smart, and he's trying to stay as far away from the female as possible. Why? Because life on the reef is a high-stakes game. The females tend to be bigger than the males, and if they're hungry, they will eat the male after sex. So, we do not have a lot of cuddly octopuses. Maybe, as you can imagine, the men are a bit leery. Let's talk IQ. I found this fascinating. Who's smarter, an octopus or a dog?
Octopus.
I'm sure it's not.
Well, let's find out. Look at this, number of neurons. Octopus, about 500 million. Domestic dog, about the same. Now, what you may or may not know about octopuses is, do you know they have 9 separate brains? They have the central one, right here, but at the base of each arm, they have a whole nother clump of neurons that constitutes a brain. That one arm can decide if it wants to go this way or that way, and each of its tentacles has that capability of smelling and tasting. So that one arm can be going this way, kind of looking for what's tasty, and the other arm can do the same, and they don't necessarily need to be taking up central nervous system, main brain to do. Isn't that fascinating? They're just crazy creatures. I wanted to show you this cute little video because it's just amazing. Octopuses may be smart. I think it should be over here. They may be smart, but you know what? They are grumpy sometimes. I'm hoping you all will tell your own stories about octopuses. Now take a look at this. Sometimes they just punch a fish for no good reason. It's pretty near. Here's the octopus, right here. Okay, so keep an eye on him. He's coming out. Here's a phone. Catch it? Yeah, he just was like, hey, you're in my way. So, they are just like that. Louis, sometimes it's hard to get the next slide to come up. You get the next slide.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Did you know that in 2022, the octopus was recognized in the UK officially and formally as a sentient creature, meaning that you're not allowed, it is illegal to cut it open while it's alive, for example, that humans are finally understanding that other creatures feel pain the way we do, and other creatures deserve that kind of respect that humans have been poor at giving to fellow non-human animals. So that was pretty fun. That's me feeding an octopus. You can see I look just a little bit happy, like over the moon ecstatic, right? Now sometimes when they're friendly, when they're not grumpy, oh my God, you can have the most mystical experiences. Look at this crawling up my niece's arm, and now it crawled right around her belly. I'm so jealous. I've never had an experience like that. But you know, I would have loved it. And here's me. This is New Year's Eve. Louis and I are somewhere in the Cayman, I think we're in Cayman Brac. So we've been all over the Caribbean, right? Because we lived in Miami, so there's a couple hundred islands throughout the Caribbean, and I've tried to get to as many as possible, right? So New Year's Eve, Louis is like, let's go down to the bar and have a glass of wine or champagne to celebrate. And I'm like, not me. I'm going down under the dock because there might be something fun. And sure enough, there was. This guy was friendly, because you know, now it's nighttime, so the octopuses are awake and they're hunting, so sometimes they still might not be too friendly with you, but other times they're just in a playful mood. This one let me pet him. He came up to the dock to just sit there while I petted him and crooned him. Do you know the fish and squid and octopuses, they like it when you baby talk to them. They like it when you croon to them. It's so weird. Try it next time. You know. Birds like that sort of thing too. It's just a strange thing. So yeah, there I was crooning and baby talking to little Mr. Octopus there. Okay, next we are going to talk about, get ready, the sex life of Caribbean wrasses. Do you know, it is so weird, it's almost impossible to believe. First of all, this is a blue-headed wrasse. Is it blue-headed? No. Okay. This is a blue-headed wrasse. Now, when you're a diver, and like me, you're trying to learn the underwater ecology, and I took a lot of classes trying to understand fish behavior. Well, first of all, it's just, there's a special club where you can get, if you can get properly identified 100 fish in one dive, you get this like certification that you're as good as God underwater, right? So here you are, you're trying to learn, okay, I got this one down. No, I got this one down, it's a blue-headed wrasse. But I always saw those things underneath. What are those? Well, darn if they aren't the same blue-headed wrasse. What happens? Look at this crazy stuff going on. They all start out female, every single one. And you'll see them in schools like this, pecking around in the shallow reefs. But you think that's one species of fish. It's only the females of the very same. And if they live to be old enough, what happens is if the dominant male dies, so usually it's a harem of like 15 females and one male, right? But if the male is taken out for any dies, gets eaten, within hours, the largest female starts to turn into a male. Its ovaries will shrink and disappear. Its testes, which were non-existent, begin forming. It doubles in size, sometimes quadruples. It grows that blue head and the green bottom of the body, and within a couple weeks, its testes are fully formed. It has transformed gender. Now, in this example of wrasses, they will never be able to go back. That's a terminal male state. Other fish can go back and forth. I mean, you start studying these fish, which at first I thought were kind of all the same and not that interesting, and you begin to understand, my God, there's a diversity of personality and behavior that I had no idea. Do you know some fish are farmers? They're these little chromas, they're only 1.5 inches long, and they will bite at you, you're 5 feet long or more, if you touch their little farm. And they keep all the little, anything that debris that may fall into their farm, they pick it out, they take it off, they keep their farm fully topped, and you know what they're growing? Tasty epiphytes. That's some sort of underwater greenery. Nobody ever says epiphytes. Everybody always says tasty epiphytes, okay then. So, this is something that groupers wish they knew how to do. We'll get into groupers next. But wrasses have 4 ways to propagate their species. Look at that. I'm going to read it for just a sec. So they can group spawn as a female, where a whole bunch of them will rise to the surface in this big flurry of activity. Okay? Then there's pair spawning, where only one female does this beautiful spiral loop with a male to the surface and back down. Then there are these sneaker males who look like females. They haven't changed their coloring, but they have matured into males. How they do this, nobody knows. But so when the dominant male with the blue head is spiraling up in a mating dance with a female, this sneaker guy comes in, and he's 4 times as potent as the big terminal male, and he just adds some sperm to the mix, and it's a very effective way to propagate. And then the 4th way, of course, is the dominant terminal male spawning with each female. So the wrasses have this great chance at reproductive success because they're able to do these crazy things sexually. Groupers, on the other hand, have some challenges. But first I want to go into some of the other weird, bizarre things groupers do. I have seen this. I could not believe my eyes. I used to like to go and I would dive by myself, because if you're in a dive group of 8 or 10 people, everybody's picking up sand, everybody's just kind of making the fish want to go disappear. So you don't see many fish. But if you're by yourself and you find a spot and you just peacefully coexist, you begin to see some of this weird, unusual behavior. Look at this. A grouper, when he's trying to fish, but a fish is going into a crevice and the grouper can't get in, he'll go and shake his head at an eel. And the eel will come out and they will hunt together. And I have actually seen a grouper, an eel, and a snapper, the 3 of them go hunting together. And it's a great success story for the predators, because they're going to flush. The eel's really good at getting in the little crevices, right? And it'll flush out the fish. And either the eel will get the fish, or the fish will sneak out its back entrance and the grouper will get it, or the fish will bolt away and the snapper will get it. So that poor little fish, but look at this, there's even a specific behavior. The grouper will go like that in front of the eel hole, and off they go on a commensal hunting experience.
Do they share the food?
No, usually one or the other gets it. But so over time, it kind of evidently works out. Yeah. This is a picture of a grouper. If a grouper knows where the fish is and the eel for some reason isn't catching on, the grouper will stand totally upside down and tell the eel right here, look, it's right in this crevice. Go for it. What a fascinating thing to see underwater. Now groupers, I said wrasse were great at propagating. Groupers, unfortunately, are not. Specifically Nassau groupers, which used to be ubiquitous on the reef. When Lewis and I did most of our diving, you could never go on a dive but not see Nassau groupers or some sort of grouper. But the problem is how groupers mate. They spawn and they love the winter full moon. They will travel hundreds of miles just to be there at the big Jimmy Buffett party under the full moon in January. And so unfortunately for them, of course, fishermen have figured this out. And now Nassau groupers are critically endangered, so that's kind of a sad thing for them. Groupers are kind of like wrasses because they start out as female and then they'll get bigger and become male. So, I mean, when I first heard that, I was a little grossed out. You know, here you are eating your dinner, a grouper, and all of a sudden you're like, is this a female? Or is this a male? Or maybe it was in the process of changing. What hormones from the fish am I imbibing? So anyway, groupers are fun that way. While we're on the subject of sex, though, just so you don't think everybody starts as female and then goes to male. You know, Nemo, the clownfish, they all start out as male. And the harem is a male harem with a dominant female who acts as protector and main procreator. So if you think about the movie when Nemo's mother dies, that means that Nemo's father would be transitioning into his mother. And I think Nemo would be very confused in those circumstances. Now here's another behavior some of us, a lot of us I think know about this. Seahorses, only the female has a pouch. And only the male has a pouch. Females do not. The males raise the young. And that pouch serves just like a uterus. It rotates the eggs, it cleans any toxins out, it adds nourishment and feeds the eggs. So here's a whole nother example of how life has evolved underwater. And these are some of my favorite. These are pretty little ribbon eels, blue ribbon eels. They all start out, you see on the reef, these black little eels. And you go, oh, there's black eels, and then there's blue ribbon eels. Good, I got it. Many kinds of eels on them. Oh, no. They're the same crazy eel in 3 different phases. The all black. Then we have this beautiful guy, and I used to just love to swim alongside them and have them just sort of slither through my hands. They're so soft, and the way they just ribbon, the way they, so sensual. Then if they get old enough though, guess what? They change again, they become terminally male, and they become golden. So you can have a black eel, a blue and yellow eel, and a gold eel. They're all the same. It's so hard to get 100 fish correct underwater in one scuba dive, you can't imagine. talk my favorites, squid. Now squid, of course, are related to octopus, but squids are never grumpy. Squids can get enough food without even trying. So most fish, especially as a photographer, you learn this, fish are trying to decide you're going to fit into one of three categories for them. You're either going to be food, you're going to be a potential mate, or you're going to eat them. So the fish are always scoping you out. So once as a photographer you start to show interest in a fish, then that's when the fish decides to get out of here because you're obviously thinking of them as food, right? But squid, they have hours of just hanging out. Just hanging in the shallows, nice sun, great day, plenty of food, and so they have this curiosity that matches mine. So they will, well, we'll talk about a few other things first. So they will often, with their friends, they will split screen image, where one side of the squid, I've seen this, one side will be red and white. That means stay away, you jerk. And the other side will be all these beautiful phosphorescent little polka dots. That's the side near the female saying, aren't I pretty? Wouldn't you like to meet with me? Wait, did you forward a few of them here? They'll come in any number of colors. Like octopuses, they can change their color at will. And they do a lot of communicating through color patterns. So it's really fascinating to see as they change their colors and trying to figure out why. But I did not know this till I put this slideshow together. I always thought of squid as these cuddly, curious, smart creatures. When they get attacked, evidently they extrude this mucousy black substance that's made in the exact shape that they are in, so that hopefully the predator goes after that. They become totally translucent and jet away. So think of what's going on there. Smart little creatures. I've never had anyone give me any black mucus. I don't think I'd be quite so fascinated with them if they had. Here's some. So here we were diving, and I think that's the one. We're diving in Bonaire. And I spent hours under the water trying to befriend these critters, right? And so for the first week, I would just be like this. I'd go down there where the squid were, and I'd croon sweet nothings at them, and they would be really curious. But for them to be willing to get that close to me took many weeks, and then they got so keen that they would go in between Lewis and I. He'd be photographing, he'd be getting shots of our little guys saying hello. I mean, look at that. They're so cute. For them to be that close and that unafraid, you don't get that much underwater. And especially, you can see I have so many clothes on, so much equipment. Okay, so now you know, I'm really a squid lover at heart. But before we got too much further, I need to tell you a few bizarre facts about parrotfish. First of all, parrotfish are pooping powerhouses. Up to 50% of that beautiful white sand that you love to walk on at the beach, it's parrotfish poop, boys and girls. It's nothing more exotic than parrotfish poop. Did you see that? 1,000 pounds per fish per year. These guys are prolific. So next time you walk on the beach, remember you have a parrotfish to thank. Now parrotfish are also gender weirdos. This is a female parrotfish. Now you can see it's a stoplight parrotfish, and you who are trying to identify 100 fish in one scuba dive say, I can remember that guy's stoplight. It's got a lot of red on it. Good, I'm set. No, you're not. This is a stoplight pair of fish too. This is after they changed gender, those busy little creatures underwater. This is what it looks like once it's male. So when you're identifying 100 fish underwater, you gotta know which is a male, which is a female, and you gotta do it fast. Some weird things about them. They are hermaphrodites, like many of the other weirdos I've shown you today. They they metamorphize from the female into the male. And you know, when they become terminally male, they will get a big bump on their foreheads. It looks like a totally different creature. It's still the parrotfish, but it's a parrotfish with a big bump on its head, which means it's now male and it can't change back. The other weird thing you have to know about parrotfish is when you go on a night dive, one of the things that happens is that's when the sharks come out to the reef, right? During the day, the sharks, you see a shark here or there, nothing to worry about, kind of fun to see, but they're not really hunting. At night, watch out. They are so damn fast, and you send on that reef, they just hit it like the bad boys are in town. It's like the gang from the inner city has just come out to suburbia, and they are there to kill, you know, and they're there to feed. So all the fish scatter into every crevice they can possibly find, except for the parrotfish, who don't have a care in the world. Now, parrotfish are rather big fish underwater, so they'd be a tasty meal, but can you see this? Oh, they secrete this whole mucus cocoon around them. So the sharks leave them alone. Nobody wants a mucus cocoon dinner. So those, it's a very clever thing. Also, the sharks can't smell them once they're enveloped in this mucus cocoon, so they are safe. Now, I wanted to show you just a cute little video we made. See this little fish? They are about the size of my pinky. And you see them poking their heads out of the reef. And some of them even have eyelashes. They're just the most delightful little creatures. Now this is a peacock flounder. Can you see? Can you figure out the shape? Yeah. So it's hungry. So Lewis managed to get this on film. Louis, this is a video, but it's not. There we go.
You got it.
Okay, now you can see the peacock flounder moving. Look what it's got in its mouth. Can you see right at the very top? That's our little Blenny. OMG, not the cute little Blenny. But on the other hand, you know, the flounder has to eat sometime. And so you see the poor little Blenny, he's almost out, he's almost out. He's almost out. He puffs himself up as big as possible. Oh, he's gonna make it. Oh, no, then almost he doesn't. But then his little head comes out again. My God, he's not giving up, he's not giving up. And do you know part of why this Blenny may actually win? Because fish have to eat each other head first because of the spines and the dorsals and the inflatable and this and that. So this flounder trying to catch the Blenny tail first, it just doesn't work. Now we never see the final outcome of who wins because the flounder goes into a crevice that we can't follow. But there you have it. The Blenny and the flounder. Now I thought we'd transition into stories that maybe you all can share. This is and I thought I'd start it off. Lou, do you want to tell this story?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so we were on a night dive, right? And there was something, night dives are scary, first of all. It's really dark. You have this tiny little cone of light, and the rest is pitch blackness. There's a lot of clicking sounds, and fish make noise. Shrimp make noise. Everybody's doing click, clack, pop, 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 click, click, pop, pop. And you just have no idea what's below you, right? And as I said, this is when the sharks are out feeding, so it's a little nerve-wracking. So here we are going down to a reef, which is about 45 feet below, right? So Lewis gets this sense that something's close. This is not necessarily a good feeling at a night dive. Something is too close. So, with all his equipment on, because remember he takes the cameras and all, he looks down like this, and there is a 5-foot snook shadowing him, right underneath his body. I mean, as close as possible to his body. And we couldn't, it freaked Lewis out, and he scared the snook away. And we learned later that the story is that the snook, being a very big fish, when he gets on the reef, everybody's had plenty of time to see him coming, right? So all the fish on the reef go hide in their crevices. But if the snook can do a sneak approach, like, divers were making all this breathing noises and equipment all over the place, and we're big and they're kicking up sand, and so the snook can just sneak on in right underneath the diver and get on the reef and find a meal very quickly. So that was Lewis's 6-foot snook experience. It was a little bit freaky, but it was also quite fun. Would you all like to share experiences? Oh, we've got somebody in the back. Would you like the microphone? Derek's is kind enough to say he'll bring the mic around to people who have stories to share. Please give us your name.
I'm Paula, and I'm in building 1. So I started diving some years ago. I haven't been diving for a few years, but I did about maybe 25 dives all over the Caribbean for several years. But what I was most aware of always when I was down there was that we come down to study them. They have no way of studying us, and we are impacting them every day. And I always felt like I was going to cry.
Mm-hmm.
So just to sense that they need protection and they don't know.
Exactly. Overfishing has decimated so many of our reefs, our entire planet. Anything, continent.
I don't have a story, I have a question. Is that okay? So, since you've been scuba diving for many, many years, have you seen changes in the coral reefs?
It's tragic, yes. When we first went down to the Keys, which is just an hour and a half south of Miami, you would see these whole schools shimmer past you. It was gorgeous. The reefs were so brightly colored. And then we went down just a couple of years ago to some of those same sites, and it felt like a funeral. It felt like attending a funeral. There were so few, you'd see one instead of a school of 50, and we got back up on the boat, and these young divers were like, yeah, did you see that Caribbean wrasse? We're like, where were the other 49? Where were the eels? It's just, and the reefs are bleached now and dying. It's just in our lifetimes, really. It's our generation that has seen the reefs go from being unbelievably vibrant and, as you can see, fascinating ecosystems to becoming just not much. And they say the thing to do. I looked up what we humans can do to protect the reefs, and it's the same old messages. Use less plastic, use less water, use minimal fertilizer, because these things all end up in the sea, right? So, something to think about.
I have two things, one a comment and one a question. My comment is in Vieques, Puerto Rico, they have a wonderful program. They're regrowing coral. They have coral gardens, and it's incredible. And also after Maria, they have replanted the mangroves. So they are doing wonderful work that gives me hope. And
Thank God.
Hmm?
Thank God.
Yes. And my question is, when I was in middle school, I love to fish. So this weighs on me. In high school, my biology teacher told me that fish did not feel pain. What, do you have an opinion on that?
Of course they feel pain, just like our dogs feel pain, just like an octopus feels pain. Fish have the same nerve receptors we have. I don't know where this urban myth ever came that that creatures wouldn't feel pain.
Well, his reasoning was their brains weren't that developed. But it makes me feel so guilty.
Yeah. Stories, comments, Jane's comment.
Now,
Oh,
I just think that the research to get this information must be and must have been absolutely fascinating.
yeah, when I was a young diver, they told me that wrasses change sex in that upward spiral dance, that the female became male and the male became female at the top and switched genders coming down. And now the understanding is different. Now it's, as I said, that they're females, they stay females going up and down in the mating dance. So yeah, knowledge has really come a long way with behaviors of fish. And really a lot of creatures, like those of us who also love birds, right? We're understanding that birds have not one song, but 6, and each song has a very specific meaning. One is for food, one is for territory, etc. So, yeah, the life around us